again, everybody. Welcome back to Talking Wolves, or welcome back to a new match preview. Wolves will be taking on Crystal Palace this week, and it's going to be a real big game and a real pivotal point to see if Wolves want to get into Europa League football again. Of course, unfortunately now, Champions League football is sort of out of our reach, but now we're going to be hoping that Wolves can get something out of the game at Molineux on Monday to, of course, qualify for Europe again. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, guys. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new. We will have, obviously, the Crystal Palace perspective ahead of the game as well. But Wolves, unfortunately, in the last game, conceding late against Burnley, and you look back now at the results like Burnley, like Sheffield United, and think if we got something out of those games, or if we beat Burnley, we would be in such a more comfortable position. And it's not about if buts or maybes. You know, Wolves need to make sure we can get the points, and we've been in such good positions, especially since the restart. I would say since the restart, Wolves have been good, but the losses and with other teams in and around us continuing to gain points, it's put Wolves in a very difficult position now. Spurs have just leapfrogged us, so now Wolves really, there's a lot of pressure on us to get 3 points against Crystal Palace, and we need to do that today and still hope that we can get something against Chelsea. I think for European football it's going to be very tight. We come up against the Crystal Palace side, who I think are just very inconsistent ahead with Roy Hodgson in charge. They've got a couple of injury issues at the moment as well. No doubt they've got talented players. We all know that. Wilfried Zaha, probably the star of those, probably had a bit of a quieter season than he normally would do. But I know I think most teams in the Premier League would probably take him. You've got players like Ayew, who I think have done quite well this season as well. But then you look at their results in recent times. They've got 2 tough games in us and Spurs, so we're hoping they can do us a favour on the final day, to be fair. But yeah, we need to try and get a win. But you look at their last few results: losses against Manchester United, losses against Villa, Chelsea, Leicester, Burnley, Liverpool. You know, they've lost their last 6 games, and we as Wolves fans have got to hope that Wolves and Nuno can continue to pile the pressure on Crystal Palace and compile the misery that, you know, they've been on a dreadful run. I think they know that. They are safe. They're 14th in the Premier League, which shows how well they've done sort of prior to the restart as well. And you're looking at Wolves now. We're on 56 points, 2 games to go. We need 2 wins, or 4 points at least for me, for Wolves to get European football. Of course, we can slide down to 7th, but you don't really want to be relying on that, and you don't really want to be relying on the FA Cup winners to not be Arsenal. Of course, if Manchester United or Chelsea, depending on their semi-final result, if they beat Arsenal, the next European place will go down to 7th. But that would mean Wolves then have to go through all the European qualification again, like we did this summer. It was a bit of a nightmare, which was almost a year ago. I think a year ago this week since we had that first game, which is still crazy to think. So we've got to be positive, and we've got to be hoping. You know, we know we're better than Crystal Palace. We know we should be able to win. But as I said, Crystal Palace, to be fair to them, they'll be wanting to win games. They've got some good players in there that can cause us trouble, and especially at Molineux, I think they've got an all right record. I can remember a couple of times. I remember Wilfried Zaha when we were in the Championship. That's where he really sort of made his name, and he gave us a torrid time at Molineux. They beat us last season as well. I think it was around January. So we've got to try our best to obviously try and get something out of this game. But we're going to get the Crystal Palace perspective now. This is Harvey, really sound guy. I've met him before, and this is obviously a Crystal Palace fan giving his thoughts ahead of the game.
Hi there everyone, it's Harvey here from the Red and Blue Site YouTube channel, Crystal Palace fan, giving my quick preview to the game, of course, away to Wolves. Penultimate game of the season, last away day for us, last home game I believe for you guys at Wolves. Well, first of all, thank you to Dave and you guys at Talking Wolves for letting me come onto the channel and give my thoughts on the game. It's going to be a really tricky one from a Palace point of view, obviously. Wolves have got a lot to play for still. You're still in the hunt for European football with a couple of games to go. For us, the season's done. When we lost to Burnley back in the 2nd game back from the restart, that was really our chances of a top 8 finish at the time over. And obviously now that City's ban from Europe has been reversed, it means that there was no hope in us finishing in Europe anyway. That little glimmer of our first European adventure has gone out the window. So now it's all about finishing the season strongly, and it looks like the players don't really want to. So by the way we played since then, we've lost every game since the Bournemouth win, the first game back. A couple of good performances against the big teams, which is good, always good to see. Against Chelsea and Man United, we played really well, and I think we deserved something out of both those games, minimum a point. But we've come away with losses at the end of the day, and a big part of that is just sloppy play. We're making big mistakes in the areas of the park. Leicester, we gave Leicester both of their goals really away to Leicester. It was looking like a 0-0 draw. Nothing really happening. Leicester, the better team, but nothing happening in general in the game. We give them 2 goals from really poor defensive errors. Our passing's been very sloppy in the middle of the park. We like to play with Luka Milivojevic, captain of the team, obviously, in the DM role. And normally MacArthur, Kouyaté, or McCarthy, just ahead of him. So really we play with 3 DMs in the midfield. We do set up very defensively. Roy doesn't like to shift from that. And we look to grind out games and try and frustrate the opposition and get the 1-0 wins. And it's very boring to watch, but earlier on in the season, and there were points in the season where it's been very effective. Since the restart, though, as I said, because we've got nothing to play for, really, you feel like the players just aren't putting in that extra effort that's needed in that system. You know, you've got to be clinical on the break. You've got to use the ball wisely, and we're not doing any of that. From a Wolves point of view, obviously you're playing really well at the moment. I worry about Traoré, Jimenez, Jota, you know, the usual suspects, if you like. I think the way you're playing, and again, because you've got lots of stuff still to play for, I think it's going to be really tricky for us to get anything out of this game. You look at the way we set up, we're probably going to be playing with Dan and Sacco in their centre-back. They've been good at points in the restart, since the restart, but you look at games, Gary Cahill has been probably our player of the season. He's out for the rest of the season with an injury he got. I think without him in the team, we are a lot weaker at the back. And the stats show that throughout this season, we've had such a good defensive record compared to the second worst goal scoring record. Only Norwich have scored fewer goals than us all season, and really without Gary Cahill at the back, we should be in a relegation battle, if not already relegated right now. We have got bigger problems than it may seem on the outside. Yeah, and as I mentioned, it all depends on who scores first. When we score first, not just since the restart, but in this season, when we scored first, I think the stat shows about 80+% of the games we go on to win, and it's because of the defence, because we get quite a lot of clean sheets when and even when we concede, we don't usually see a lot of goals coming in after that. Sometimes we've had big defeats here and there. Obviously, you get that as a team like Palace, but all in all, teams around us, similar sort of level, we don't concede that many goals. The stats, on the other hand, show, though, when we go 1-0 down and that defence does let in a goal and we go 1-0 down and we're now chasing a game and we've got such poor conversion rate up front. We've only got Ayew scored double figures this season. Everyone else hasn't contributed enough at all, consistently performed rubbish up at the top end of the pitch. When we go 1-0 down, we lose pretty much all of the games where we go 1-0 down. The stats really do show it's all about the first goal for us. So if Wolves get the first goal, in my opinion, you go on to win the game. Not really looking forward to it, I have to say, because Wolves are a great team. I rate what you've done. I rate Espirito Santo as well. And I think that you'll go on to get Europe comfortably, maybe half a chance of top 4. I think it's unlikely now, but you deserve everything you get, and good luck in the Europa League. I do think you'll go on to win this game. And yeah, thank you guys for having me on the channel. First goal is crucial, that's all I've got to say.
Big thanks to Harvey. You can find his links in the description down below. Now, in terms of the team lineup, again, Nuno went very, very different, didn't he, against Burnley. He went very, very attacking. I think I'd be surprised to see that again, if I'm honest, against Palace. I think Nuno knew that we had to go and win the game, so maybe we could see that again. But I would fully expect Johnny and Doc to come back in. I would still expect Patricio, Cody, Bolly and Says, that back 5 to sort of revert back to normal. I would probably try and maybe start the team, if we can, that started against Palace. Not Palace, Everton, sorry. With Dendoncker and Neves in the middle, with Podence, Jimenez and Neto if fit. If not, do you go with Jota or do you go with Adama? I would, I think we should go with that team that the last game at Molineux we were so comfortable against Everton. I would, if we can, try and go back to that team. The balance of Dendoncker and Neves did well. I think Dendoncker brought that physical presence in the middle that just almost allowed Neves to have that little bit more room to ping the ball around, to express himself a little bit more, and I think that's what we need. And I think with Matinho, we didn't quite have that protection. But even Matinho or Neves with Dendoncker, I think, could work quite well. We've got to go for it, though. We have got to win. So maybe we see a Adama Traoré come in. Been a bit quiet over the last couple of games, but you guys know, like we saw with the Burnley goal, that came out of nothing, where Adama picks the ball up from deep, drives forward, commits 3 or 4 players, plays the ball to Doc, whose obviously shot gets deflected for Jimenez to score a beautiful goal. There's so many situations there for Nuno, and I know we all want to talk about having a bigger squad next season, but if we think the selection headache is bad now, imagine what it would be next year when we start bulking out the squad a little bit more. But it is a pivotal game. If Wolves want European football again next season, for me, they've got to win. If we don't win, you're relying on too many teams to drop points, and we shouldn't be doing that. And I think it's going to be a very, very strange come next week, this time next week, if we haven't got anything out of the games against Palace and Chelsea, and Wolves possibly drop out of the top 6 or 7, because we've been holding on to it for so long, because we've been in this great position since probably January, fans are going to be really, really disappointed. Whereas I think this time last year we knew that because we were in Europe, because we had a bigger schedule, we probably weren't expecting to be this high again. But I think it will be a very bitter pill to swallow, because we know how good Wolves are and we know what good a position we've been in as well. But I'm hoping, let's get rid of the negativity, I'm hoping that Wolves can get a win. I'm positive we can get a win as well. And I'm hoping to see some good performances again, and I'm hoping to see 3 points and Wolves really piling the pressure on and making sure we get European football again at Molineux next season. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and until next time, I'll see you all very, very soon.